Hello, everyone. So, I know it's an odd time to do this stream. I've had a bit of an odd week with kind of my teaching is sort of a little bit all over the place. So I found a good pocket of time right now, which is good to do a review. So I want to get started immediately so that I have, plenty of time to devote to these gorgeous head joints sitting in front of me. Where I'm going to shoot for about 45 minutes per head joint, and I'm going to try and stay on topic so that I have like a good half hour afterwards to like clean up and chat with you guys and stuff like that. But I just kind of want to get the like work part of it done. So let's get going. But first off, as is tradition, let me say hi to the people who have shown up in the chat. Vera Kosin and Jenny. Thank you so much for chatting with me. And just for Jenny in particular, hoping that your recovery goes very smoothly. Hey, Natasha, how are you doing? And to anyone else who is just lurking, hello, we welcome you. You don't have to talk in the chat if you don't want to. I don't want to make it feel like you have to, all right? But this is just a nice little community where we can just geek out over flutes together. So let's get started. Yes, time for the nerdiness. So we're going to start with the nerdiness. In this batch of head joints that I requested from the Flute Center this month, I requested a whole bunch of head joints that had some wood in it. And just because I'm curious about what's out there, I'm kind of curious about smaller businesses, smaller flute makers. So this week we are looking at Abner Medina. I actually haven't heard of Medina's head joints, but they look absolutely gorgeous. I did see that someone else has done a review on them before too, so this is me just adding my voice into the reviews. But yeah, so what we're looking at is something pretty interesting. The type of wood is, I think I'm saying it incorrectly, but to an American, it's Gombeira, unsure exactly how to pronounce it, but it is a Brazilian Grenadilla. So I don't know if you guys can tell from the camera here. I'll do this second camera so you guys can see. The wood is a lot more brown. Typically, the typical Grenadilla that is used for, instrument making tends to be a very kind of like very dark black wood. But this is more brown, which is super interesting to me. I was actually really surprised to hear that it was a type of Grenadilla. So please don't ask me all the specifics about all the different types of woods and like where they come from and stuff. I am reviewing this from a consumer standpoint, so I'm going to be reviewing how it plays. If you wanted to know more about like the different woods, where they come from, what they're like to work with and stuff like that, in terms of like working with it, like making it, you're much better off asking an actual flute maker. But we're going to figure out how it plays. I did have to kind of try it on my flutes to see what it fits on. It does fit perfectly into my Trevor James copper alloy, so we will be trying it on that. It's unfortunately a little bit too big for my Brandon. Now, it took me forever, but I finally found out why that's the case, and it's because these are silver tenons, and the standard bore for a and the standard wall tubing that is for a silver flute, or it's like, what silver parts is essentially is what, like 0.016 inch, I think, wall tubing. But I found out this year that my flute is 0.012 inch wall tubing. And that's actually pretty standard for gold. So I was already thinking it's probably not going to fit in my Brandon, but really glad that I have my Trevor James on hand to try this, because the Trevor James flute is my backup flute. And the reason why I use it as my backup flute is because it's sort of the cheapest, but at the same time, well-made flute that mimics the way that I like to play. And apparently the way that I like to play has more to do with the copper than the gold. So that's probably why I like it. So I just kind of wanted something that was like close to the way that I play personally, which is why one of the reasons why I'm not trying it on my Mateki. My Mateki also needs a lot of TLC, so I'm not that comfortable doing a full review on my Mateki. So just to kind of explain to you guys the context of why we're using my Trevor James copper alloy. Okay, so one of these has kind of a fairly typical lip plate, but you can kind of see it has this like ridge that is also carved in here. This I'm seeing is becoming very, very popular amongst both metal flutes and wooden head joints. And I believe it has something, like it does something with projection. It kind of helps with it because you can kind of see that the lip hole kind of goes over the opposite side. And something about that makes it project more, at least in my experience as a consumer. And so this is a little bit more typical. What I do find interesting is that the lip plate is also kind of carved to have a little bit more of a sort of a natural indentation here. So I'm going to guess that this is going to feel very comfortable on the chin. So this one has kind of a more, I would say, typical, a more kind of traditional look to it. This one is interesting. It has kind of that sort of like cutout sort of shape to it. This is actually, like, I've started to see this in a lot of kind of like smaller businesses, smaller flute makers. They're really, a lot of people are experimenting with this shape. The Perry Alcon head joints that we looked at last week kind of had a similar vibe going on, except that this lip plate actually went all the way around the tube. So, and as you can see, there's also this kind of like really sharp ridge right here, also kind of like on the outer edge of the lip hole. This one in particular has a silver riser, as you can see, so it's probably going to dig a little bit more into a silvery sound as a result. I myself, I've have found am partial to this combo where it's wood and then with some sort of metal riser. My own head joint is like that. It's a manka and it's a Mopani wood lip plate with a rose gold riser. So yeah, there is actually quite a bit of silver in these. If you look at the specs, which I've put in the video description below, both of them use silver rings, silver cork plate, and silver tenon. So there, like inside of here, I'm not sure if you guys can really see. Yeah, I think you guys can barely see it kind of reflecting. Yeah, so like that cork plate is also silver. So there's, you know, more kind of metal in these wooden head joints than, you know, like a full kind of wood head joint usually would. Usually like a full wood head joint. I think the only like metal part that you will see is the tenon, because that has to actually attach to your metal flute. So yeah, there's a little bit more silver in these than I am used to seeing. So I'm curious how that's going to play into how they play. I'm curious to see how much of that kind of like metal flute quality it's going to maintain and how much wood sound it's going to have. So we shall see together. Let's see. So, hey, Rogue, how are you doing? Asa, that is. Yes, indeed. Greetings, party people in the place to be. Heck yeah. Okay, so with that said and done, let's now jump into popping one of these onto my flute. Here we go. So we're going to start with the one that doesn't have the silver riser. So let me just kind of like write this in our notes here, that the one I'm starting with is the head joint number 1051 GB. And you guys can see the specs below. I've listed the specs below. This is the no silver riser. Yeah, we'll just say that, just so that you guys are clear which one I'm starting with. Okay, let's give this a go. See what happens. Oh no, you might be getting laid off. No. Oh, but you're going to take the opportunity to, I don't know what that is, but I'm assuming it sounds like a programming language. Is that right? All right. Let's do this. Okay. Here we go. I'm just going to noodle around a little bit, kind of get a general feel of how this plays, and then I'll do my harmonics and really figure out this flute or this head joint. As expected, that kind of like curved lip plate, very comfortable on the lips. This is very comfortable. Wow. It's super easy to play. I think what I find particularly interesting about this is that the low notes don't sit as low as I think they need to, because this is a B foot joint. So usually what that means is that your low notes needs to sit a little bit lower and your high notes needs to sit a little bit higher compared to a C foot joint version. But so I'm wondering if with a C foot joint, this is going to actually sound like feel very kind of compressed. Also, the landscapers have decided to show up near here. So hopefully that's not catching too much, at least in this microphone. Might need to wait a little bit to make sure they're not literally right outside my right outside my door for the next bit. Okay. Okay, I think they're going away now. Cool. Okay, so yeah, at very front of the mouth, extremely front of the mouth. It's like I feel like everything is in front of my teeth. And also, yeah, low notes don't sit very low. High notes don't sit extremely high, like a little bit. I kind of have to like duck face it out a little bit, but it's not that much actually. So I think I'm going to try out my harmonics now and really map out this flute. It's very high. Okay, the more I map it, the more I realize this combo plays very similarly in feeling to my current combo for my main flute. So my current combo for my main flute is a Manca 14 karat head joint with a mauve honey lip plate and 14 karat riser with a 10 karat rose gold body and C foot joint. And what's really interesting is that this head joint with this flute it's actually because the low notes are sitting higher and the higher notes are sitting lower than what I'm used to. This is interesting because I'm starting to wonder, like, if I do have to play a low B. Okay, I'm not saying I'm going to buy this, okay? But it is now within the realm of possibility to pick a head joint that does actually compress the, like how tall your mouth has to be. That's really interesting. I wish I could try this on my C foot joint. In fact, I think now that I'm thinking of it, I probably do have to try this on my Mateki. I'll try it just like a little bit just to see if it compresses it even more, which would make flexibility even easier. But just so you guys know, I'm not going to do the full review on this because this flute needs so much TLC. I'm literally only testing right now to see if it kind of compresses the spacing in the mouth even more for the, you know, for the range of the flute. So let's see if low notes sit even higher and if high notes sit even lower with this combo. So this is with my Mateki, and yeah, it fits perfectly. Okay, let's try it. Harmonics again. Yeah, holy. Now that C is sitting really high. Like I feel like it's sitting where I would typically aim my 1 octave higher C. Whoa. Straight up feel like I don't even feel like I'm playing a low C. I feel like I'm playing a, like, you know, middle register, like second register C. Wild. Yeah, I can get the D7 on this. Interesting. I think it does compress the, like, you know, low notes sit even higher, high notes sit even lower. So if I were to do, like, I know I'm jumping the gun, but I'm going to test the Genshin main theme because it starts in the middle register, it goes up high, and then it goes low. Holy. This has some very interesting implications. Like that's why I'm kind of jumping the gun right now. Anyway, let's try it. I think I just found the small mouth dream. Like this is built for a smaller mouth. 100%. It's wow. Yeah, like when I go to play low notes, I'm just imagining I'm playing middle register notes, but just with less airspeed. And it just, whoa. Holy, yeah, because I was like, when I was trying it on the Trevor James with, the full B foot, I was like, this feels like a C foot, So like this feels like even shorter, like it feels even smaller, which like for a person with a literal child-sized mouth, like this is absolutely a dream. Like it just plays so like you feel like you don't have to do much at all with flexibility. So like yeah, my at least my understanding of what makes a flute feel like it's very flexible is if you personally feel like you don't have to move a lot. Like you don't feel like you have to like move that air bubble like crazy, Okay, I'm going to try the same thing on my Trevor James just to see how it changes that experience. So let's do the same thing again. So you heard that crack? That means that high note is sitting a little higher than where I'm currently aiming. So with the addition of the B foot joint, it does make those high notes sit a little bit higher. So I'm going to do that part again. Yeah, for sure I'm feeling high notes are sitting just a hair higher. Low notes are sitting just a hair lower. Like the low notes are sitting just a hair lower in a spot that's a little bit awkward for me. So, because I think I'm kind of overshooting it a little bit. So I do want to try the bottom bit again. a hair more forward too. So I think, like if I try it on here, I think this is actually a little further back on a C foot joint, which I did not expect. That for sure I did not expect that it would affect kind of like how far in back it is. Yeah. That's further back in. Interesting. Okay. What I'm thinking is that this wood is extremely responsive to whatever flute you put onto it, because typically I find it's has something to do with how the flute is actually made, that kind of causes the that spot where your air bubble is. It causes it to kind of be a little bit further back or a little bit more forward. I'm not exactly surprised that the copper alloy is a little bit more forward. It kind of plays like, I almost feel like that's something that I typically prefer, is something a little bit more forward. The silver Mateki, I think it is a little bit further back in the mouth. So it's almost like this head joint seems to just kind of compress the notes. So lower notes sit higher, higher notes sit lower. So like if that is your complaint on your flute, that the gymnastics are a little bit too much, you feel like you have to like lift your soft palate, do crazy things to get the high notes out, and you feel like you have to like really kind of like dig that air bubble too low in the mouth. This head joint might actually compress it for you. I've never actually, at least I feel like I've never actually encountered a head joint that does that actually compresses it. So far, like before this experience, really the thing that I noticed that really kind of compressed that down is switching between B foot and C foot, which is still happening here. It absolutely is still happening here. But like, if you already like the way your flute plays, but you just kind of want to compress it and you want that woody edge to the sound, but still have that kind of like, do you guys notice how projecting this thing is? Like, this thing is actually really strong. So it's a very, very strong head joint, projects like crazy, but maintains like a really solid woody edge to the sound, but has this zing underneath it. It's like crazy zing. So like, I actually wonder if this would actually fly pretty well as a fairly soloistic head joint. Like, I think it's fairly soloistic. Hey, Michael, how are you? Wow. That's absolutely wild. So, I think what I'm going to do, how do I even draw this? Because it's so responsive to the flute that it's on that I'm like, I don't even know exactly how to draw this. So, let's do, I will try. I'll kind of give you guys a guesstimation. And then, if you guys try this flute for yourself, then just know that you might need to move things around a little bit depending on your flute. So this is the Medina. And I'll put here no silver riser. So cool. And so I might do the B foot version because simply because I think right now a lot of people probably own a B foot joint more than a C foot joint who would be looking for a head joint like this. So I'm feeling the C is like, low C is like here. Then C5 is like, where is it? Oh, it's higher than that. Yeah. It's not fully sitting on the lower lip. It's just like, it's kind of barely hovering. Oops, I need to do this color. So it's like here. Then the C behind it is like behind it like this. Okay. G is like the bottom of the top teeth, like here. That's right behind the teeth. In the middle. G is the outlier. No, C, G. No, E. Is E the outlier? No. E, yeah, G is the outlier. So E is here. G is like here. No, a little higher, like here. So I have to kind of like duck face it out. B flat is back here. I have to lift the soft palate just a hair. I have to tilt my head up a little bit to get that C, because the C wants to sit right here. So for me, in order to make that space, I have to tilt my head back, keep the flute still, tilt my head back so I make that extra space and really lift my soft palate. I'm curious if I can even eke out the D7, since this is a little bit like that C is actually sitting a little lower than on most B foot joint flutes. So let's see. Yeah, the D7 is sitting just a hair higher, and I can like barely get it out on a B foot joint. That I did not think that was possible. I think that's the best I can get that out, because I barely have that space there. It's But I think what this really shows, though, is that this head joint really does squash the kind of vertical range of our notes here. So yeah, the D7 is just above it, is like just there. That's wild. That's actually wild. I will put a note here that this is what it's like on a B foot joint. Maybe I'll put it here. B foot. Yeah. If it is C foot, I just tried it on the Mateki. It's this map here, but compressed even more. So the low notes sit even higher. It's like off of the lip. It doesn't even touch the lower lip anymore, which is very uncommon. I've hardly ever encountered a flute where the low C does not kind of vibrate and sit on the lower lip. Absolutely crazy. So it does make flexibility even more flexible. So let me label these for you guys. So this is C4, C5, G5, C6, and then this is E6. This one is G6. This one is B flat 6. This one is C7, and if you can reach it, D7. So that's why, seeing the map here now, if you compress it down even more, that's why I can get the D7 really clearly on the C foot joint. So I'll put a note here. Will be compressed on C foot. Yeah. Wild. That's really wild. Okay. So let me very quickly do some like kind of tone dynamic stuff. It sounds like it's just very responsive to me. So I think it's going to be more or less the typical of what I'm used to. So let's see. No, it's not. This is one of those flutes where the tone color and the sort of like, especially the tone color manipulation is flipped 90 degrees. So if you want to get that richer tone, you need to kind of like elongate your air bubble so that it goes downward. So for example, like if you wanted your like G5 here to be richer, you have to, oops, just realized what I did. Let me change that back. No? Okay. We're going to leave it blue. Okay. So this G5 here would instead be like, if you wanted to be really rich, you would like make that air bubble there. You would make that air bubble kind of longer this way, like that. That's what you would do. So again, I'll put the air bubbles like on the side here. We'll do it in pink. So if your air bubble was like this, maybe I'll put it here. If your air bubble is like normally like this, to get a richer tone, you would elongate your air bubble down this way. Surprisingly difficult. Ugh. This is very difficult. Okay, that's the best that I can do it. All right. So, I'll put here. So this is like rich tone color, and then this is kind of more or less your like more hollow. I'll put there we go, hollow. So yeah, you're kind of like elongating the space in order to get that rich sound, which also reads as louder. But I'm just gonna try just straight dynamics. So dynamics is just the size of the airstream. I am finding that I am able to get a rich sound if I do kind of the more elongated, long shape, but just make it really small. And it does respond as rich but soft. Let's try for like a loud hollow. Yeah, this is very responsive. Like that, yeah, interesting. Yeah, this head joint is very, very responsive to, like, it's not very resistant. It kind of makes you be the driver. And yeah, so I think that a flutist who likes to kind of like manipulate color and stuff like that will really like this. So excellent. Articulation. Looks like we just need to kind of put our tongue behind where the air bubble is here. So I'm going to try that really quick. So your tongue really just hits behind where all these air bubbles sit. The only thing that I'm noticing that you might need to get used to a little bit is that because the G is so much more far forward, you're going to feel like if you tongue behind your teeth, there might be a slight delay. So I would guesstimate it's like G, G sharp, A. Those high G, G sharp, A, those notes you may need to tongue more so against the bottom of your top teeth for it to be a little bit crisper. So here we go. I'm going to try it. Yeah. So you guys, are you hearing one that's like, sounds kind of like I'm struggling, like it's cracking and I'm struggling, and then another version where it's like clear every time? And what I'm doing is I'm switching where I'm tonguing. I'm tonguing kind of closer to where I would tongue the E6 versus the bottom of my top teeth, which is better for the G6, and that's just kind of popping. So I'm just tried it on the G, G sharp. Let me try it on the A. copy. High F sharp to A. You need a tongue between your teeth. That's the only thing that I would say is like a little bit kind of extra. So let's write all this stuff down. So the first thing is low notes sit higher, high notes sit lower. So put here, great for flexibility. Very responsive to the flute it's on. So like it kind of maintains the kind of the metal quality, maintains metal quality. So you can hear that on my silver, it has a lot more of like a silver bravado sort of sound. And then on my copper, it has a more mellow sound. And also like the silver sits further back in the mouth. The copper alloy sits a little further forward, which is kind of as expected for the metal. So yeah, I think that this is very responsive. So I will put here, let's see. So tone color manipulation is like a vertical long bean shape for rich sound. So it's kind of what I would typically experience on most other flutes, but kind of at 90 degrees. So this, I believe if I'm remembering it correctly, I believe a lot of pearls play this way. And I think it was like the Nienzi horns. Something about the fact that when they put all those crystals on the flute, for some reason, it just kind of like swapped the, like it just turned that tone color manipulation by 90 degrees. So there are some flutes that do this, and this head joint is one of them. And I do know for a fact that my other head joints on these flutes does not play that way. So I think this is just this head joint's way of doing tone color manipulation. And let's see. So let's see. Right. And then so just a quick thing to watch out for is the high F sharp to A, tongue between the teeth. Those notes sit more forward. But for everything else, you just kind of put the tip of your tongue behind where the air bubble sits, as I've mapped here. So, okay, that's this particular head joint. Yeah, Michael, earlier I tried to fit these on my main flute and it doesn't fit, so I can't do it. But anyway, we're going to move on to the next head joint. So this one I saved for second because with the metal riser, I had a feeling that I would prefer it more. And I tend to try to leave the ones that I prefer more, or that I think I will prefer more, later in the stream. And it's simply so that it doesn't color my experience of the other head joints. You know, like I don't want to like one first, and then kind of compare the other one against it. Although sometimes that still ends up happening. Sometimes it's not within my control because I'm just guessing here, but we'll see. So this one is, let me put this here. So this one is the number 1201. That's a serial number. And again, if you guys want to find the exact product link for this, it's in the video description below. But this one, we are going to see how it responds to me. We shall see. Okay. I'm just going to open another page for this so that we're clear what we're working with here. Let's look here. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing. I'm just going to noodle around, and then I'm going to do harmonics. All right, let's noodle around. Okay, my very first impression is that if I wasn't looking at this, I don't know if I would know that it's wood. And this is the first wooden head joint I've ever tried that has maintained that much of a metal quality to it. That's actually really impressive. So I'm actually kind of wondering where that woody kind of edge is going to come into play here. So let's play around a little bit more. Okay, if I'm not imagining it incorrectly, I think this compresses that vertical space even more than the other one. Because this is really making this feel like a C-foot joint now. Huh. I wonder what is making that happen. Like, okay. Let's do some harmonics, and then probably I'm going to jump right into the Genshin main theme, which now I'm really curious how this is going to react to my Mateki, which is an actual C-foot joint. So, huh. It feels more forward playing. So if this is as responsive as the other head joint, I think I might actually be more comfortable on my silver flute, which kind of tucks everything a little bit further back. Interesting. Huh. I never thought I would actually say that like I'm realizing that with this combo, I think I actually prefer the silver. I'm not really a silver player. That's why it's a surprise for me. I'm trying to find the D7. I'm unsure if I can. It's like it almost wants to come out. So I slightly take back what I said. I don't think it compresses it more. I think this is just higher. I think it's similar to like the range, the actual range of the notes in terms of how low and how high they sit. That range I think is the same or similar to the previous head joint, but everything is sitting higher because I was able to like eke out a pretty like I want to say 75% solid D7 on the other head joint because it was sitting low enough. This one, I'm only getting maybe like 10% of it out, 5 to 10% of it out because it's sitting so high that I don't think I can reach it. So, of course, the follow-up is let's see if I can reach it if it's on a C foot joint. All right, let's see. There's that D7. Yeah, I can get it because it's a C foot joint. Now, what's interesting is I think I'm realizing now that this flute, this Mateki flutes, outlier harmonic, I think is actually the B flat. That's what I'm starting to realize now. So I'm gonna try it again up there, see if I can nail those highest harmonics. Yeah, it's the B flat that is splitting, and I'm not quite sure if it should be slightly further back or slightly more forward. It needs to be higher, which is like my mouth doesn't really want to open up in that specific spot. So I think in general, this head joint just like that whole everything sits higher than on the other head joint. Interesting. Tougher than the other head joint to get that D7. So I do think that just like confirms that everything sits a little bit higher. I'm gonna do the same thing as I did on the other head joint, and I'm gonna try out the Genshin main theme on both flutes. And we'll see if I'm feeling the same thing before I map it out. I think everything is sitting higher. Yeah, everything is sitting higher. It made me think of the fact that this might be really fantastic for piccolo mains. So people who mainly play piccolo, like this head joint reminds me of playing a piccolo. Like everything is sitting very high in the mouth. That air bubble is just shoved really high, especially for those high notes. It is making me wonder if this might be a really, really good head joint for my overbite players, because one of the biggest issues with playing with an overbite is getting those low notes to sit low enough. But because this whole thing is sitting very, very high, I think that this would be actually very ideal for overbite players, and thus likely also for piccolo players, like people who mostly just play piccolo. Because you still get that like almost full metal sound too, but with it's like a hint of wood. It's really interesting because there's so much wood here, but I think it's because of the silver riser, you get much more of a metal sound, because also this wood I'm noticing is just very responsive to whatever flute you put onto it. So I think this is for piccolo players. I think this is for overbite players and piccolo players, which I'm not, which is why I'm slightly struggling. Interesting. I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to go into those low notes now. Yeah, those low notes sit so high that I feel like I'm playing upper end of middle register notes. So we're talking like G5 and above. That's how I feel like I'm playing on that I would feel on a typical flute. But this sits so high. I really think this would be such a great head joint for piccolo players and overbite, people with overbites. Because it just everything is sitting super high, which is where you typically are comfortable if you are one of those two or both of those types of players. Noelle, thank you so much. That's so kind of you to say. Wow. I'm just going to try it a bit. Same thing on the C foot joint. And I wonder if this will just compress the low notes down just enough to make it a little bit more comfortable for me. Not sure if you guys heard, I didn't actually quite get that F sharp out because it actually is still sitting too high. So I do actually think that this head joint sits too high for me, which is perfect for other people. So it's not a bad thing. But yeah, those low notes sit so high. I really feel like I'm playing middle register. But in any case, I think that this about confirms what I'm feeling. So let's start mapping. Here we go. Just gonna try it a little bit again. Again, I'm trying this on a B foot because I think most people buying this, at least within North America, are probably already going to be owning a B foot joint. So this might be a little bit closer to what you're going to feel. That sits so high, guys. Like it's actually insane how high that sits. So this one is the Medina with silver riser. Absolutely. It's really crazy. So I'll show you guys what I mean. It feels like it's like here. Like freaking wild how high that is. I would actually hazard a guess that it's even higher. Like I feel it vibrating against my top lip. That's how. This would be so good for people with overbites, man. So good, because then now you can actually feel it, you know? And then the next C is right behind. This would be so good for people with overbites because you feel it right here, right behind your teeth. So the G is like here. This is it. Oh my God, it sits so high. We're already here. And that we're only 2 octaves up right now. So C, that's C6. Okay, the nice thing is it moves backwards without me having to really lift my soft palate. So it's kind of like here. That's the E. Okay. On this flute, at the very least, the G6 is still the outlier. So, and this head joint is very responsive to it. So I'm feeling the G is here. And the nice thing is I can feel it actually in front of, like, kind of against my front teeth. So there is a place that I can kind of like aim it towards. Okay, at this point, my mouth is a little small, so I have to kind of like prop open my mouth in order to get this. The B flat 6 is back here. Woo! Okay, I don't actually have space for it. I'm propping open my mouth and kind of tilting backwards to make the space, but it's like here. I'm not going to attempt the D7 because I think the D7 is like above it a little bit, and I really don't have the space for it. You guys could hear earlier I was doing it was like kind of eking out the tiniest bit. But yes, looking at this map here, I think this is so perfect for someone who has an overbite because you don't do any air bubble business in the bottom half of your mouth. This is so good for overbite players and for piccolo players because a lot of playing the piccolo kind of feels like this too. So I want to write that in here immediately. Everything sits super high in the mouth. Perfect for overbite and or piccolo players. Like it. Oh wow. Yeah, I might actually start recommending this to my students who have an overbite. Just recommend that they try this because yeah, I've never tried a head joint that is this perfect for an overbite player, and I'm so freaking happy. I've been trying to like find a head joint or a flute that is actually designed to be played like this because, you know, we want the flute to be accessible. We want the flute to be something that everybody can play. And, you know, like, I hate the feeling of like, oh, you know, your mouth is this way. And so, oh, too bad. Flutes are just not designed that way. So thank God for creative flute makers who can do this kind of stuff. Like, thank you guys so much for making the flutes so accessible. So yeah, I think this is like just so perfect for overbite players. Holy cow. I am so happy to have made this this discovery. Oh my God. Finally, Like, is this comfortable for me? No. But like, I don't care, because this makes this comfortable for my students and also, for any of you guys watching this. Wow. That's really cool. Yeah. Oh, wow. I will put here, very responsive to the flute it's on. Other thing too is maintains a lot of metal kind of quality, with a hint of wood. And yeah, which I almost feel like is very piccolo-y. You know what I mean? Like that type of sound is a very piccolo-y sound. Very piccolo-like, which is another reason why I think that piccolo players will really like this head joint, because it just, the way that it feels and the way that it responds is so similar to a piccolo that, like, if you're swapping between the flute and the piccolo, and you're mostly a piccolo player, you're not going to be just like super shocked by what you feel on this head joint. Holy cow. Wow. Yeah, isn't it super cool? I've never, ever encountered a head joint that actually, like, you can see it is, I feel like this is designed for a person with an overbite. Like, who knows? I don't know if something with the cutaway does something interesting to the Airstream. I don't know. It's super interesting. That's crazy. Wow, I'm so happy. Okay, I do need to kind of mess with some tone color stuff and some articulation stuff, and then we can start to clean up together. So here we go. Okay, wait. Before I say anything, I'm going to test it on a few other notes. Okay, I can't do it very well because I don't have an overbite. But for anyone who has an overbite, this is actually going to be a lot easier for you to control, like, do like tone color manipulation. Because like, if we look from the side, all right, it's kind of a three-dimensional thing that's going on. Okay, so let me put here, I'll put here front view. So the front view is, oops. Sorry, guys. One more time. Front view. So if you, the air bubble is like approximately kind of like this. Well, maybe a tiny bit more circular, like something like that. Okay. So from the front view, if you want to make it richer, you kind of come out on the sides, kind of like a triangle, like that. So sorry for the horrible drawing, but you guys get the idea. It's like a triangle. But from the side view is interesting. So side view is, make sure we have our paintbrush here. Okay, so the side view is, again, you have your little air bubble, but it comes down and back. So like that. Is that not designed for someone with an overbite? Because like for me, in order to make the, like for example, the C4, in order to make it rich, like I was like, well, maybe not the C4, but like this note, right? Like I was trying to go down in here, but truth be told, actually, there's a lot of stuff in here, like, you know, the bottom of your mouth, the, you know, my tongue and stuff like that. I feel like my lower jaw is actually in the way. So I actually feel like I almost have to try to tuck my whole jaw down and back a bit. Yeah, and I think this would sound beautiful on a person with an overbite. I think this would sound just stunning. Yeah, because my lower jaw is actually in the way. I can actually feel that for this, my lower jaw is too forward. So yeah, this is wonderful. My God. Wow. I really think this is designed for an overbite player. I don't know if that was on purpose, but it really feels like it is. This is so perfect for an overbite player. Okay, let's do a little bit of tonguing, articulation. So I'm gonna guess everything is like between the teeth for the low register, and then everything is just up against the top teeth. Wow. So even your lowest notes are still tongued against the bottom of the top teeth, but like you don't ever go so low that you're tonguing between, like, equally between the teeth. It's all against the top front teeth, which is perfect again if you have an overbite, because you're, you know, in terms of making contact with your teeth, or making contact somewhere to do your tonguing, that is the perfect spot for if you have an overbite. Because if you have an overbite and you try to do the between the teeth thing, your lower teeth will be too far back, actually, and the effect will not be quite what you're looking for. But here doesn't matter, because all that matters is tonguing against your top teeth somewhere. Wild. You like normally tonguing the lowest notes is not that high up. Like it's usually not like right up against your teeth. It's wild. Like when I do that, I feel like I'm tonguing the way that I normally do in the middle register and higher. And wild that is so clear, you know? Oh my God. All right, we'll do a little bit of double tonguing. Okay, so I'm starting to understand now that like when you're double tonguing, when you have the tongue up so high up, the K part of your double tongue has to be super light, almost to the point where you feel like you're completely cheating. So like it almost feels like you're not making contact. And yeah, so I think that's just something, a little something something to keep in mind. I will put here in our notes. So all tonguing is against top teeth, up to kind of where the teeth meets the gums, to where it meets the gums, including lowest notes. Crazy. That's wonderful. So I'll put here double tonguing K needs to be super light, just because you're way up there. Yeah, that's just like a really small minor thing to keep in mind. Wow, very cool. The low notes sound a little higher than what you're used to when you play. Do you mean like when like looking at the map here, right? Yeah, they're way higher. Like it's incredibly higher. This is the highest that I've ever felt it, ever. I've never felt a head joint do this before. I love this kind of stuff that smaller businesses are coming up with. This is very creative. It's extremely creative, and I think is very needed in the flute world. Wonderful. Well, I basically ended right on time. I can't believe it. I normally go way overboard. So I'm going to clean up now. And because ideally what I wanted to do was kind of clean up and talk to you guys as I was cleaning up. But if you guys have any questions, now's the time to let me know. Otherwise I'm just going to kind of just hang out and chill out, clean up. Huge thanks as always to the Flute Center for lending these flutes to me. It's kind of wild that I get to do this. Not kind of, extremely wild that I get to do this. You're so welcome. I completely agree. This head joint is absolutely wild. I thought that I would like it more because of that, like personally for me, because of the way it looked, but never judge a book by its cover. All right. Like, whew, I was definitely not expecting the how it plays. Never saw that in a million years. I love the other head joint on my Miteki. Wow, what a combo. I'm very impressed. If I had, I think these are just under $2,500-ish. If I had that amount of money just laying around, if I had the luxury of that, my God, I would actually be thinking very heavily about purchasing this. But see, the thing is that it's for my silver flute that I don't play very often. So, my God, though. Stunning. Yeah, I recognize my privilege. I mean, I guess there's no other way of calling it. I didn't have to. My God, this is just muscle memory at this point. I did not actually play this head joint. Why am I swabbing it? Anyway, but yeah, I recognize my privilege being able to, try so many of these different, head joints and flutes and stuff. So, I almost kind of feel like it's my duty to share my thoughts with you guys so that you guys can share in the experience with me. I don't want to keep this experience just to myself, Yeah, I remember thinking a long time ago, because I did my first review in my bathroom. when I was still in university. I think I was in like my 3rd or 4th year of university. I can't remember. But at that time, I was already watching a lot of like makeup tutorials and stuff on YouTube. And I was just like, I remember thinking to myself, I just wish someone made flute reviews the way that people make makeup reviews. And I was just like, well, you know, it's probably like, what kind of crazy company is going to allow me to do that, right? And so I just made a review of my Yamaha student flute and a flute that I had won at a raffle draw at the kind of winter ball that my music school put on. You know, so I was like, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't really know what I was like really looking for. Honestly, I was talking out of my butt most of the time. But I just had fun because I just wanted to make a flute review. That was really all I was interested in. And so I did it, I put it up, and I remember thinking to myself, okay, I did it. I made my flute review. I'm just going to treat this as I made my dream come true with what I had and just call it a day, you know? And I was just like, this is too impossible of a dream. So I just kind of put it aside. I just kind of made my own dream come true in the way that I could and then put it aside. And it was many, many years later, because that was during my bachelor's, and then during my, so I completed my bachelor's, then completed my master's, and then I moved to Seattle. And it was in Seattle here that, you know, while I was very much struggling to get my career going, the Flute Center cold emailed me and asked me if I wanted to review flutes with them, like as an influencer. And I was like, excuse me? What? But yeah, this is why I always tell people, like, you might think that your dream is completely impossible. Do a small scale version of it just to see if you like it. That's the one thing. The other thing is, when you do a small scale version of your impossible dream, in any creative way that you can with your limited resources, what you're actually doing is you're building a portfolio of what you can do. And just the fact that I had that review up was enough to tell people that I can do this type of thing. Like, it almost works like a resume, where it's like, you know, that I can play. Not only can I play, but I can review flutes. In my situation, it's like I can review flutes, and I can do it in a way that is engaging and that people get what I'm talking about, or at least I hope people get what I'm talking about. But yeah, so just wild. Have I tried an upright bass flute? I think I have. I can't remember where, but I recall doing that. Maybe I was trying my friend's flute. I think that might have been it. So Vera Costin, you're asking, how do different woods modify the sound on the flute? So it's really hard to explain, but it's sort of like, I feel that different woods kind of have their own tone color palette. So they have like a certain brightness to the sound, a certain mellowness, a certain kind of like, sometimes for some woods you get more of that whooshy sound. Sometimes you get less of the whooshy sound. Sometimes you get a bit of like a hollowy kind of woo, that kind of sound. Like you get more or less of that. So it's the combination of all of those aspects that kind of make a wood sound like itself. But you get a whole bunch of complications with like what flute you're putting, as I demonstrated today. You get a whole bunch of like extra complications of like which flute you're putting it on. You could hear how responsive this was to the two different flutes that I put it on. So it might respond slightly differently to your flute than it does to mine. And then there's also like, you know, what metals are you putting on the wood head joint, like how much of it, right? Because, you know, he's put in silver cork ring or cork plate rings, tenon. So with all that extra wood in the or metal in there, I do think that it affects how it sounds, how it projects, how like the coloring of it, and like it's so that's why you can get the same wood, but you can make it sound really different. At least in my experience, like not all Mopanis, in my opinion, play the same way or even have the exact same tone color palette. And I hear also it has something to do with the batch of wood, right? Because this is organic. So, you know, even if you have the same type of wood, depending on the batch that you're getting it from, they might actually respond differently. So, you know, you have a lot of like crazy complications actually, with like, you know, what makes a wood sound like itself. It's kind of insanely all over the place, which is why, I prefer to do kind of like how I do my reviews, which is like, hey, I'll tell you guys what this wood is and what the specs are, but I'm going to try it. And from a consumer's perspective, I'm going to tell you that this is how I am noticing that it responds. Like this combo, this very specific combo. How does this respond? How does this play? And you don't want to kind of make a blanket statement that, like, for example, all Brazilian Grenadillas play like this. As you guys can tell from this one review alone, both these are made from the same wood, but you can see and hear how different they sound and how different they play just from like the different combos of like how they carve the lip plate, how, you know, do they put in a silver riser, probably a whole bunch of other design things are in here that I don't know about, but yeah, it's really, you know, I would say that you will probably run into way more issues trying to figure out what works for you if you generalize, you know, how, like, generalize woods. If you generalize like all of this type of wood plays this way and all of this type of wood plays this way. I've moved away from that. I used to be like that. Like I used to think like that. And now I've started to move away from it simply because of my experiences, you know, trying these instruments. I'm like, oh, they can be wildly different from each other, even though they use the same wood. So yeah, as David is saying, hello, David, how are you? Yeah. Michael's asking if I prefer the alto or bass. I like both the same, to be completely honest with you. How might changing the crown produce a different sound? So a lot of people talk about the different weights of the crown can change your sound. I believe it has something to do with the fact that it might change how your flute vibrates, right? Because if it's a heavier on one side, like I think it does change how the flute vibrates. And so a lot of people will say that a heavier crown yields like a richer sound. I probably should do a review with a bunch of differently weighted crowns, so that I can really feel out what is happening. Is it changing where the air bubble sits? Is it changing how we manipulate the air bubble? You know, like I'm actually quite curious about it myself. So unfortunately, I can't give you like a full answer. I can only give you my hearsays. So yeah, I've heard people talking about the fact that like the heavier crown for some reason yields a richer sound, you know, all that good stuff. So yeah, maybe one day I'll do a review where I just kind of compare, like with the same flute, with same head joint, but compare different weights. And maybe let's see what happens from there. Oh, I'm glad that you don't mind my half answer. Is that your cue to research? Yes, please do your research too, guys. I don't want to be your only source of research. I just want to be one of your sources of research. In terms of what I think that how I'm useful for you guys as part of your research is, again, I've said this a few times, but I think it bears repeating that I see myself as a consumer. And so, you can see my reviews and see these flutes and these head joints from the perspective of a consumer who has tried many other flutes too and has that kind of repertoire, to compare against. So, because you're going to get a very different sources from the actual flute makers, from flute technicians, from sales representatives, et cetera, et cetera. Like everyone kind of has like a different background and a different repertoire of knowledge that is all very good to research and to dip your fingers into. So for me, what I can give you is like the perspective of a consumer. So yeah. So Noelle, you are thinking about playing piccolo, and is there anything you should know about or any tips? First things first is get really good earplugs. Personally, I recommend loop earplugs. They're very comfortable and they come in the ear kind of buds come in a bunch of different sizes, so you can just pick which one fits you. So I actually have extra small on my right side and then small on my left side. And yeah, please get hearing protection for playing the piccolo. I cannot stress that enough. We talked about kind of how piccolo players like to play. The air bubble typically sits very high in the mouth and very, very tiny. So yeah, those would be my kind of initial things for you to consider. Clearly, there are many other things to talk about. We can talk forever about playing the piccolo. So yeah. I like that you guys really enjoy this type of nerdiness. Oh, David, you're absolutely right in terms of you don't want to generalize things, right? It's like dating. It's hard to say I want an individual who's 5'11". It doesn't work like that. Exactly. Because everyone who's 5'11", you get all sorts of people, right? So there you go. Yes. And your best research is really for you to try them. Because, I try to explain how these flutes and these head joints play in as objective as possible, in as objective as possible way of explaining, but I'm still just me. And so I am seeing the world through my own lens and through my own worldview and my own perspective. So there's still going to be differences between how I play versus how anyone else plays. So yeah. There is open hole alto. I don't know about bass, but I believe Kingma Brandon makes one. Yeah. What do pads do? How might they change the sound, and what pads do I use on my flute? So pads seal the tone hole. So you want to have a very high quality pad that even when you put just a light amount of pressure, it evenly seals the entire tone hole. So that's what a good pad does. My flute uses Straubinger pads, which requires actually flute technicians to go through a certification in order to install them. There are many other proprietary flute pads out there now, proprietary as in a flute company has created it, invented it, and uses it for their own flutes and have essentially patented it. So yeah, there's a lot out there now. Straubinger is just very well known for how, how precise the ceiling is. Like those pads are extremely precise. So it makes it so that you can play very light and with like the least amount of tension possible, because essentially it does such a good job sealing the tone holes. So yeah. You know, as long as the pads seal it well and evenly, you're good to go. So yeah, you're welcome, Noelle. You're welcome. Do I think inline G or offset G is better? It depends on the person. So if you have very long fingers and you have very large hands, you're going to find that inline G is a lot more comfortable for you. If you have small hands and short fingers, you are going to find that the offset G is much more comfortable for you. So it's a comfort thing. I do not actually think it, you know, like it does anything to like one is better than the other. Side note, there is such thing as a half offset. If I'm not mistaken, I believe Miteki, which is the brand of my silver Seafoot here, I believe Miteki has a offset G, half offset G. So yeah, there's a, you know, you think that the flute is like standard and has all these standard things. Nah, when you actually go out, like look into like the real flute industry, you can get your flute custom made to high heaven, you know? So like because, you know, I don't think that the flute should be one size fits all. That's not how humans work, right? Humans are we're very different from each other. We're very unique, you know? So like, you know, I wouldn't have a job reviewing flutes, you know, if everyone was the same, right? Like the whole point of reviewing all of these flutes and head joints and et cetera, right, is to explore these unique differences that have the potential to be someone's perfectly fitting glass slipper, right? That kind of explains why they're so expensive. Yes. You know, you mean the custom thing? Yes. Anytime something is super customized, it's expensive because, you know, you're essentially their only client for that one flute, right? So, you know, if you get custom anything, think like wedding dress, you know, like you get your custom, like, even if you get like a sample dress, which is what I got for my wedding dress, you know, you take it to a seamstress and they customize it to you. They fit it to you. They fit it to your body. And that process alone is lots of money, you know, because you need a skilled person. This is a skilled craft, you know, and like that's what flute making is too. Flute making is a skilled craft. Yes, customization equals money. Exactly. Altus also makes half offset. Yes. Unfortunately, you don't think they do it for the US market. I am not surprised. Not surprised at all. There's a lot of things that for some reason are just not available in the US market. And I would love to see that change in the next 10 to 20 years. I hope that does change. So, yeah. Anyway, I think now is a good time for me to sign off. Thank you all so much for joining me today. I had so much fun reviewing these head joints, and I'm just so delighted to find a head joint that seems like would be an amazing fit for overbite players. That has been kind of a missing piece that I've been searching for in my reviews. I've been searching for a head joint that would match my overbite players. And I am like very much thinking about my overbite students right now. And I kind of want them to try this. So, Medina, if you happen to see this, thank you so much for making these beautiful, beautiful head joints. And thank you for just being so creative and like just making something so delightful. And again, thank you to the Flute Center for lending these to me for me to have fun with. And I will see you guys next week. I do have a little bit more time next week, so there is a chance that I might actually do 2 streams next week. But we'll see. We'll see where that goes. We'll see how that progresses. It also kind of depends on how I feel. I've been noticing that like this month especially, I've been a little under the weather more days than I have expected. So I reserve the right to still only do 1 stream next week, but there's a chance that I might do 2 because we've got a lot of head joints to go through. Okay. So anyway, I love you guys so very much. Have an amazing weekend. Take care of yourselves. Stay happy, healthy, and safe because there is no music without the musician. Love you guys so much. Laters. Bye.